Hi, I'm Dave Kale. Welcome to this Christian Business Insights podcast show where my goal is to provide you with practical, actionable ideas to help you create businesses and careers of excellence and at the same time multiply your influence for the kingdom. I have been a Christian in business for over 30 years, and I have personally and contractually consulted with over 500 different sales organizations. So in these podcasts, I combine the lessons that I have learned with an out-of-the-box experience and perspective on Christianity that you will find challenging. And we put that together to provide you with practical insights and ideas that you can use to live better and lead better. Welcome to the journey. Hi, this is Dave. Should a biblically oriented business set annual goals? Well, let's get into this. It's maybe a little deeper than you think. I am committed to the process of goal setting as a best practice for a number of different business expressions. Goal setting, for example, is at the heart of our Kaleway sales management system. It is one of the secrets in one of my books, 11 Secrets of Time Management for Salespeople. So it's a part of almost every presentation I make to salespeople and business leaders. So I understand and advocate for setting goals in most business situations. Having acknowledged that, I'm still asking the question on behalf of a very small segment of the business community, and that is probably you, those entrepreneurs and business leaders who strive to run a business on biblical principles and practices. So if that's you, then dig into this with me. Now, this question presented itself to me several years ago. I was on a consulting project with a client and required me to talk to other CEOs. So I was interviewing over the phone business owners for that project, and my questions covered several best practices. One was goal setting. So when I asked one of the business owners about setting goals, and it was a female, she replied, and quote, "We are a Christian organization. We don't believe in setting goals. But instead, we react to the opportunity that God brings to us." End quote. I'd never heard that before. I was too stunned to collect my thoughts and dig deeper, but that conversation has stuck with me for years, and it reveals a fundamentally different view on how to run an organization. Goal setters assume the responsibility for guiding the organization and begin that process by identifying the most important priorities and initiatives of the organization, turning them into goals, communicating them to the organization, and measuring and managing progress towards those goals. That is a classic way to manage almost anything. The key issue here is responsibility. By virtue of their ownership or executive position, the small group of goal setters in any organization accept the responsibility to sort out the priorities and mandate the initiatives. For want of any higher authority, the goal setters assume that they know what is best for the organization. And typically these goals are a means to an end, and that end is often expressed in a mission statement. For example, we may want the organization to, quote, be the best in our industry, end quote. And so we create some annual goals that represent our best thinking on what actions move the organization closer to its vision. So goal setting in a business context rests on the goal setters having a vision or at least a higher purpose for the organization, and then assuming the responsibility to make the decisions as to which initiatives or goals will move the organizations towards that vision. Someone has to lead, and that's their job. By virtue of their position, they know better than the rest of the folks. Now, imagine a business organization in which the owners and executives do not have a vision to be accomplished, nor a belief that it is their responsibility to make the fundamental decisions for that organization. Imagine that organization, holding that it is God's responsibility, not theirs, to guide the organization. God is their senior partner. Now, the principals in this organization would take seriously and literally the biblical passages that indicate that God is the source of prosperity. They would have attained an uncommon level of spiritual maturity and relationship with God. In such an organization, in place of the traditional strategic planning exercises, the principals would more highly value prayer, listening for God's prompting, and reading circumstances that indicate God's leading. In such an organization, annual goals might be seen as usurping God's authority and indicating a degree of arrogance. So, the question that naturally follows is this: does one format necessarily exclude the other? In other words, can a business organization be both God-directed and goal-focused at the same time? I believe the answer is yes. There is room for both formats in a biblically oriented business. If the principles begin with the God as senior partner premise, and they diligently seek to learn God's leading in their business, then this year's goals could be God-directed instead of man-created. Having first diligently prayed for God's leading, the goal-setting process could be a process of identifying the priorities and initiatives given them by God. The goal-setting process which follows could be a way to bridge the gap between God-given initiatives and the daily behavior of the organization. With this approach, the vision comes from God. The responsibility to direct the organization is also God's. The principals see themselves as conduits for that leading, and they use goals as a management device to help harness the troops in that direction. It is the most powerful approach to goal setting and leading an organization because it rightly aligns the skills and responsibilities of the senior executives with direction from the greatest executive. The key step in the process occurs when the organization's leaders make the paradigm shift from thinking that the business is theirs to run to understanding that the business belongs to God and it is their responsibility to seek His direction and carry out His leading. Setting goals becomes, then, a powerful means to an end. I have often maintained that the purpose of goal setting is not to reach the goal, but to formally uncover the organization's highest priorities and then to harness the energy and the resources of the organization towards those initiatives. Goals are about focus first and results next. Making the paradigm shift to understanding that God owns the business is a watershed moment in the life of the organization and its leaders. Okay, now I realize that this post might stimulate all kinds of conversation. Please feel free to comment. Okay. By the way, before I close, I just want to encourage you to check out my Substack page. It's a place where eventually I'll have all my content, blog posts and articles and podcasts and videos and so on, and I'll be free. So I'll put a link in the show notes. Check it out, okay? That's it. We're done. Bye-bye.